Thank you. Hi everyone, and thank you for joining our final cuEngage of 2020. You're all most welcome here. Just a quick update, if you have any questions at all, feel free to unmute your microphone during the session or pop your questions into the chat bar and we will ask these at the end of the session. So I will pass over to Ian now, who will kick us off. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to extend my thanks to everyone for joining. Great to see such a fantastic turnout as well on the call, so I really appreciate that. I know it's a very busy time of the year for you guys. So just to give you a little bit of an outline of what we're going to cover off this morning. So I anticipate this session will probably last about 45 minutes to an hour. And what we're going to do is run through a number of key things. One, we're going to reflect a little bit on our core product themes in terms of the drivers for our roadmap. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we collect the content and the process that we go through for developing the roadmap. We're going to share some customer feedback with you guys and then finally show how all that kind of accumulates into what our 2021 roadmap looks like. So we'll kick off by talking a little bit about our roadmap themes. Okay, so effectively, as hopefully you're all relatively familiar with now, back in 2018, we kind of set out these that really kind of underpin our roadmap. We use them as drivers for content and we bench content against these and we use them to make sure that effectively we are got the right blend of content around our products and services. And every year as we sit down to sort of define our new roadmap for the incoming year, we reflect on these themes to see are they still appropriate, and effectively we believe they are, and that's based on do they line up with the strategic direction of you guys, our credit union customers, businesses, and the challenges that that you're facing. So just at a really high level, with 4 key themes. The first one is all about products and services that that both protect and drive new revenue opportunities within the credit union. Secondly, it's all about digital and member experience, and whether this be online or in branch, it's all about the products and services that that drive that ever-increasing demand from members in terms of the convenience and the frictionless service that they want, and being very mindful of the competition that you guys face in the market with emerging fintechs and payday lenders and so on. Little orange box talks about efficiency. So this is really about how do we do more with less? How can we squeeze the IT to make it do the heavy lifting and enable you guys to focus on some of the other services and products and diversification that you want within your product portfolio. And finally, in relation to maintenance and compliance, so are there specific obligations that we need to be compliant with, whether that be GDPR or PSD2 or e-commerce 3DS or whatever that may be? There are a number of things that we need to do, and as we do those, making sure that they're built into the product in a timely fashion and in a convenient, non-intrusive way. So as we kind of looked at this for 2021, as I mentioned before, we reflected back on some of the key drivers that we've had throughout 2020. So you know, and obviously it'd be amiss of me not to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and the impact that we've seen as a net result of COVID-19 on the products and services and on you guys' business. And I guess one of the big areas that really we want to call out, and we'll see when we dig into the roadmap a little bit more detail, is around the whole area of digital growth. So if one thing has come out of COVID-19, it's been that the uptake of digital services has grown exponentially. So, you know, just to give you a few interesting statistics on this, you know, as we look across all of our customer base, we've seen a 225% increase in the number of new online membership applications that have come through the system. So an exponential increase. And this is significantly important for you guys, because obviously this is about reaching an audience electronically that may not have necessarily existed before. And obviously, as we roll out some of our new features around ID and V, that's about making that an easier experience for those members. So those are new members to the credit union. We equally saw in the region of 135 to 140% increase in online registrations. These were existing members that transacted with your credit union but weren't availing of the online services. So again, significant increase in the number of members who then are seeking and demanding those online services. And then I guess the really interesting one for me was around the usage of the services. So we saw in the region of a 55 to 60% uplift in the usage of the online services. So these are existing members who have access to online digital services and are now starting to use them more, right? So to give you a bit of an indication of what that means in terms of numbers, if we look back at some of the most over the last couple of months, the average number of accesses to the online services, whether that's mobile or CU Online Plus, is in excess of 400,000 a month, right? So we're talking about 4 million members interacting digitally, okay? And that just kind of gives you an indication of the span of the audience that we can reach through these services. The other area I want to talk about a little bit in relation to 2020 is mobile. So obviously we expedited the development and rollout of our new mobile product. And in terms of the success that we've seen and you've seen with that, we now have over 20 credit unions live with that product and well in excess of 22,000 members actually actively using that product on a daily basis. So massive uptake in terms of just demand for online services. The other COVID-related impact, I guess, is around lending and digital lending, both in terms of application and signature and drawdown. So you may have seen in the board packs that we issued over the last couple of weeks that across our customer base, we are obviously seeing a decline in the region of 9% overall lending. However, the number of borrowers was only down by about 1%. Okay, so effectively evidencing that people do want to borrow, just their risk appetite for that has probably decreased the value a little bit in terms of previous years. Having said that, there's a balancing act that we've seen the overall membership grow by about 8% across all of our customers. So I mean, all these stats are really super important in terms of how we want to react to that. So what does the future look like in terms of some of the activities that have happened this year? Specifically in terms of lending, then we now have seen an exponential uptake in terms of online lending and digital e-signatures, and we now have some of our credit unions more than 50% of their loans are being done entirely online. So full online service. Member does not need to come to branch at all, which is both convenient and efficient and cost saving for you guys. So look, those are some key drivers really around some, that's kind of touching on most of these themes really, but obviously the other bit that we do is we look at kind of generally the market direction in terms of where it's going, and effectively the demand dictates that once people start interacting with you in a digital manner, that is the way that they will continue to do as they engage with you going forward. So those are the themes, okay, and we'll touch on those again when we actually present the 2021 roadmap. What I now want to do is talk a little bit about the feedback process. So effectively, how do we solicit and gather feedback that actually drives content? And then once we have that content, how does that then translate into a product roadmap and a set of development of products and services? So on the slide, you'll see a couple of key elements really that I want to talk to. So way back in July, we held a cuEngage session, a little bit like this one, specifically targeted around the roadmap. And really what we were doing there was laying down the gauntlet to say, look, Woku has set out this digital strategy for credit unions. Where do you guys feel you sit on that scale, and how are you reacting to that? And really what we're trying to do is stimulate some review and feedback of what are the key drivers for your credit union, and what role can we play as your IT partner to help you achieve that. So big thanks to everyone that both attended that session and gave feedback and engaged through questions and answers. Second thing that we look at is we look at market trends and industry news, and we look at across the globe what's happening, and we do this in two ways. We look at fintechs. So we look at the market and we say, well, actually, what are some of the big fintechs doing out there? And we do that in a number of different ways. So I've attended a number of virtual conferences this year, where we've been looking very specifically at some of the fintechs. How have some of the major players like Revolut really transformed their business? What approach have they taken? How have they engaged with people? How have they promoted services? And how have they then driven out exponential value once they have those services and they have those customers and members locked in? The other thing we do is we look at it from a technology standpoint. Okay, so obviously we have been looking at incorporating, and we continue to partner with people. So we've done that through artificial intelligence this year with our ID&V product, and next week I'll be attending a virtual AI conference where we're looking very specifically around the exponential growth of AI and robotics and machine learning, and how these things can be applied in a sensible, scalable way to a variety of different industries. Okay, so it's about how do we aggregate all these things and bring them to the industry. Third point here really is in relation to the voice of the customer surveys. So as you guys will know, we have our CXMs will engage with you on a regular basis. And as part of that, they will talk to you about your strategy and your aspirations, and also solicit feedback through questionnaires and the voice of the customer surveys to see how those things translate into IT systems and services that you would like or require from Wellington IT. And then the most recent one is a survey. So basically what we did with all those three things that I've just talked a little bit about was built all of that up into a customer survey that took the form effectively of a questionnaire. So what we had done was identified a list of 21 key products and services and modules that had fallen out of each of those levels of engagement that we've just talked about, and we presented them in a questionnaire. And what we did was we gave you guys 5 weeks to review and respond to those. And what we asked you to do was fairly simple. We said, look, on a scale of 1 to 5, vote on these items, okay, 1 being least important, 5 being most. And I'd just like to extend my thanks to everyone who took the time to review that and feedback on the specific areas that we asked for. We also provided an open-ended question to say, look, if there are other areas that you would like us to focus on, or that you have a need or desire to enhance, then please include that. So again, thanks to everyone who excuse me, took the time to feed that back. So we had over 52 credit unions who replied to that questionnaire, which is fantastic. That's a great percentage turnout. And actually what that means is that we got well in excess of 1,100 different individual responses to each of these queries. And that data and those statistics is massively useful for us because effectively, if we're not building products and services that meet the demand of the vast majority of our clients, then we're doing something wrong, basically. So what I would say is if you feel you haven't necessarily been involved or engaged in that process, then please do feel free to reach out to us via your CXM, and we'll make sure that we reach out to you next time, because we do this on a regular basis. This is how we want to drive our roadmap. We want it to be customer led. So what do we do with all those responses? So basically, we take some time, we analyze all of those responses, and we layer on top of that any insights that we've gleaned in the intervening period in terms of the market trend, obviously keeping a very close eye on what's happening in relation to COVID and various other things that are happening in the wider market and in the economy. And what we've then done is use that to ascertain actually what are the items that bubble to the top of this list. So the most obvious items that are being asked for, and how do those resonate to our current product set, and are those things that we think are suitable and applicable to build into our 2021 roadmap. Okay, and we continually monitor other things like emerging trends around current accounts and so on, and look at the trends and the statistics and the data points that we can glean from each of those. Excuse me. So what you can see on this screen then is that what we've done is we've picked out, first of all, the top 4 items that you guys voted for. Okay, so basically what you can see in the chart is CU Online, CU Mobile enhancements, apologies, eSig deposits, SEPA payments, and CU Online Plus. So basically what the little graph at the bottom is doing is showing you how we analyze the data. So basically 70% of the people that responded on the mobile app enhancements rated them as the highest, most important thing. So this is the standout product enhancement that was being asked for, was CU Mobile, with 70% of the vote. But all 4 of these things, 50% or greater of the vote, as feedback from all 52 of those clients, was saying that these are the top 4 most important things that we want from the roadmap in 2021. Okay, so just in terms of what each of those really mean at a really high level, basically this is about providing continual development enhancements to mobile, and the eSig and card deposits via member onboarding is about saying, well, look, we're getting great value from that product. How can we then take that to the next step, yeah, and move forward in terms of driving out some more efficiencies around that product. SEPA instant payments, again, is just about meeting customer demand and access to funds faster. And in terms of CU Online messaging, it's about how do we improve that digital engagement and messaging between the two. So interesting that all of these are kind of linked to certainly the SEPA around efficiencies, but all of the rest of them primarily linked to digital services, which really links us back to the conversation we just had a few moments ago about the uptake and the stats that we've seen around the uptake of those within the member profile. So those were the top 4 voted items. Okay. What I've now got on the screen is a list of the next items that were all voted highest as 4s or 5s. Okay, so this is a variety of different products and modules that span each of the various different roadmap themes. Okay, and effectively, so the slight difference with these is that they just they may have received slightly less than 50% of the vote, but the vast majority of the respondees rated all of these things as either a 4 or a 5. Okay, so from that standpoint, as we move into actually sharing the roadmap and delving into a little bit more detail, what I want to do is just reflect slightly on what we do with this. Okay, so basically what we've then done is we've said, well, if these are the things that our customers are asking for in the highest demand, then what we will do is ensure that these all fit within the roadmap. Okay, and what we've done as we move on to the roadmap, you'll then see that all of the items on this screen, 4 items that were listed as the number 1 priority, are all listed on the 2021 roadmap, and the 4 priority items are all scheduled for Q1 development. So just before we then get into walking through the individual roadmap itself and some of the key items that are on there, one of the things that I wanted to do was talk a little bit about our digital platform and our development cycle. And the reason I wanted to share this with you really was twofold. I suppose one was to give you an indication of the process that we undertake, and how that is developed and tested and rolled out, and the engagement with that. But secondly, the reason I thought it was important was that, you know, that significant volume, 70% of people demanding that we continually invest within the mobile product, and given the uptake that we've seen being exponential in a very short period of time, effectively what the demand here is, how do we get value? How do we continue to drive value from that product? Okay, so what you'll see when I go onto the roadmap slide is that effectively across the full year, we're committing to doing continual development to the mobile and digital platform. Okay, and what this slide is doing is talking to you about how we do that. Okay, so from internally, how we do that is that basically we work in this concept of a sprint. So we would basically work on two-week windows whereby we develop and test for 2 weeks, and then we cycle around that. And then what we do is every 4 to 5 weeks we cut a release and we make that our clients. Okay, and effectively what that means is that there's an ongoing development of product features and bug fixes throughout the entirety of the year. Okay, what we have done is defined a number of very specific themes that we want to drive out in terms of specific product enhancements that I'll talk about in the next slide. But really what I wanted to do here was just show you how this resonates in terms of a process and engagement and rollout. So basically what we will do is we will build the product. We will provide 2 weeks advance notice of when the maintenance update is going to be applied. We'll then, in the week of that update, we will then provide full details and release notes and bug fixes. And then we will issue comms around the when the maintenance by way of a reminder is taking place, schedule the reminder for what we've identified as the quietest period of the week in terms of implementation and minimizing impact, and then subsequently a follow-up reminder in terms of confirmation and closeout. And really, I guess the reason I wanted to share this was that, look, this is a continuous cycle, okay? So what it means is we're moving to more of a very true cloud model whereby we are continually investing in the product. That means that the cycle from initiating a problem through to deploying and implementing that from a live standpoint is very fast, and that what we have done is we have created cleverly from a technology standpoint, we've created a model whereby there are some product enhancements that we can build into the mobile platform that doesn't even require the member to do an app update. Okay, and therefore that from that standpoint, it means that these can be rolled out quicker to both you from a credit union standpoint and get the value out to the credit union members faster. Okay, so what I've shared on the screen now is hopefully a very familiar layout of what our roadmap looks like for 2021. So if I just, in case anyone's new on the call this morning, just to kind of explain the layout of this. So what we do is we categorize all of the content based on the themes. So that's the little colored boxes down the left-hand side. And then what we do is we articulate across each of the columns the timeline. Okay, so just to explain what these timeline headings mean. So now means items we are actually working on today, okay, and we'll delve into those in a few moments. But effectively, what our roadmaps typically do is define the timeline for when we are developing products, okay. Next means that these are the priority items that we will start working on next. So from an overall timeline point of view, that means that we will start development of these products in January of 2021. And then what we've done is we've split the remaining products into whether they'll be developed in the first half of the year or developed in the second half of the year. Okay, and as we move into early 2021, we will then start providing further feedback to you guys in terms of the individual timeline for release for each of these products and services. So I've just noticed it says 2020 on the top of those slides, so that actually means 2021. Okay, so the reason we have a now column in here is that basically we are working on 2021 roadmap products today. Okay, and we're kind of doing that in a number of different ways. Okay, so we are working on mortgages and configurable member fees right now. So those will actually be rolled out to a number of customers for beta testing before the end of the year. And then in early 2021, those will be available for customer consumption and rollout. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just walk through some very specific items that I wanted to kind of call out from the roadmap. There is a session at the end, as Rebecca mentioned, in terms of Q&A. So please feel free either through the chat or at the end of the session if you've got any questions. But what I would also advise is that after the session, we will be issuing a follow-up where we'll be sending out a link to the roadmap that I've got on the screen, and what that will do is allow you to take your time to then review these, and each of the items that are on this, these are clickable links that allow you to drill down in and get a little bit more detail. So if there's anything I don't specifically call out or you forget to ask, then you can self-serve that information at a later date. So the first thing I want to call out, I suppose, is just to reiterate that all of those 4 priority items have all been scheduled, and they're all taking place in the first half of the year, most of them in Q1. Okay, so that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to kind of reflect on is mobile then. So obviously mobile being called out as the most important element for you guys, and a very, very important and strategic product for us within Wellington. So what you can see on the roadmap is that across each of the columns, we have mobile reflected a number of times, and this is to kind of build on the point from my previous slide about this continual development. So in Q1, we are working on specific enhancements around documents. Okay, so this is about saying now that you have an app on the phones of all these members in their pockets, how can we capitalize on that? And we want to do that. So there's 2 very specific things we want to look at. One is about the process of you providing documentation to your members, and secondly, the members providing documentation to you. So we want to streamline that process. We want to make it easier and more integrated with their phones. We want to get underneath the categorization and workflow of those documents in terms of what you're asking the members to do and what they're asking of you. The other piece that we want to do is enhance, given these exponential uptake of e-services and end-to-end loans, we want to change how the digital signatures process works. So at the moment, you can electronically sign your document on your phone via the app, via the one-time passcode method. So what we're going to do is enhance that so that it can use the biometrics as the secure 2-factor authentication process for digital document signature. So that's the first priority around mobile. As we move into the second sort of quarter of the year, we'll then want to look at how do we improve the landing screen. So what we want to do there is look at the user interface. Do we want to lay out balances and accounts, as little visual cards? Do we want to make them look like debit cards? Are there various things that we could do just to make the presentation of the data easier for the member to consume? Okay, and I think that this sort of reiterates my point previously, which is that mobile is a step change in terms of customer demands and expectation. There is an expectation that it'll be 1, very easy to use, and 2, continually developed to make it easier to use on an ongoing basis. So that's where this content is coming from. And then as we move into the second half of the year, we want to be looking at other ways that we can kind of capitalize on this effectively this captive audience that you have who now have your mobile app. And one of the things that has come up and wasn't actually specifically on part of the questionnaire or the previous engagement was that as a net result of COVID, there's the way that you interact and some of the demands and needs that you might have from your members changed very slightly. So what we're saying is we're exploring an opportunity whereby you could pose questions via CU Mobile and CU Online Plus to your members. And these questions can be used for a variety of different things, such as voting or feedback or questionnaires and so on. So basically what we're doing here is seeking an easy way for you to be able to stand up some questions, push them out automatically to everyone who has online access or mobile access, and get their responses back. The value of doing this via this product is that it's a full, so it's verified in that you know the members, so you're soliciting feedback from a known quantity of membership, but it's also being done securely because it's following all of the PSD2 SCA rules and regulations. So therefore, from that standpoint, you can have confidence over the feedback that you get. So those are some of the key kind of mobile themes. The second thing I want to talk a little bit about here is this C Online Plus and kiosk login via CU Mobile. So as we close out 2020, we will be issuing an update in the App Store for the app, which will now include push notifications. So the push notification feature will be used for e-commerce transactions as part of the MasterCard mandate for anyone who's running a MCAS current account. But what we're then doing is saying, well, look, we've taken that mandatory requirement and that compliance requirement, and we said, well, how can we capitalize on that and reuse it for something else? Okay, and we've identified initially a couple of very specific areas that we could use it for. One being, can we enhance the kiosk process? So this is actually about improving the member experience when they go to log into the kiosk. And what this will mean is that they can then basically just use their username at the kiosk, and then what will happen is the push notification will pop up on the app and ask them to authorize using their biometric authentication details, and then it will automatically log them in. In a similar vein, in relation to C Online Plus, is that as we move away from the CU Anywhere product, what we want to do is make sure that we make the login process as easy as possible for members who still want to log in on their PC or laptop. So we will be implementing a similar process whereby the member can go to their login page on any browser, access C Online Plus, but rather than have to go through a one-time passcode process, they will basically be able to use their app, their CU mobile app on their phone, using their biometrics to automatically log them in. So they no longer require an SMS one-time passcode, provided they have the app and their biometrics logged in. So basically for me, this is excellent because it's taken it's providing convenience to the member on a number of different fronts, and it's taken a piece of compliance work that we needed to do around an authorization process and repurposing it to fulfill some of these other requirements. The second thing then really wanted to touch on was a couple of products very specifically targeted at revenue generation. So first one being mortgages. So as most of you know, we've had mortgages within our system for quite some time, and the uptake of that throughout our customer profile has been different depending on risk appetite and guidance from CBI and compliance obligations. We're seeing a significant change in that market now. We're seeing increased demand. We're seeing relaxation of rules, so effectively what we're doing is we're enhancing the Scion mortgage module, and the enhancements that we're putting in there are around things like allowing you to specify term mortgages with fixed rates for a period of time that automatically flick over to variable rates and create the documentation that's issued to the member in advance, and manage all of that process as easy as possible, and equally giving you then the ability that if they're on a term-based mortgage, what are the breakage fees should they want to exit earlier. Okay, so enhancements around that will allow you to then not just promote the use of the mortgages module, but although I dropped this into revenue generation from a theme standpoint, many of the things that we're doing are actually driving out efficiencies here for the credit union in terms of making it easier to manage that mortgage estate. We're also doing a number of enhancements in terms of how it interacts with credit control, whether that be the Wellington credit control facility or a third-party credit control, in terms of whether you want to apply different and specific rules to mortgage lending rather than your traditional personal lending. The second one here is around configurable member fees. So this is a project we've been working on with one of our customers very specifically, who had an aspiration to offer a differential service to their members, and as a result of that differential service, attract some fees in terms of generating some income. And so what we've done is we've taken those requirements and productized them in such a way that what it means is that we can then offer you the facility to then apply fees on your standard accounts. Okay, and this is a very flexible facility, so it means that you can apply monthly and quarterly fees. You can set the limits that you want to apply on those. You can set the types of members that those fees apply to. Or you can set the fees based on certain types of transactions or some combination of both. Okay, so this gives you a lot of choice around how you may want to diversify your business and offer a set of services, and then have the IT system just sitting in the background collecting those fees on your behalf. If I jump down to efficiency and then talk a little bit about Scion simplification. So one of the things that has become very clear to us as we engage with our customers is that it's abundantly clear that the Scion system is incredibly feature rich, and that there's significant value that our customers get from it on a daily basis. But there's yet more value that can be unlocked from that system. And this is one of the things that I'm personally very keen to ensure that we capitalize on that. Therefore, we've already initiated a project of simplification. And really the whole concept of this is about how do we simplify some of the features that already exist and enhance and improve them to make sure that the true value of those features and services are available to all of our clients in an easily consumable way. So we've identified, first of all, a specific piece around workflow, okay? And this is where we have, within our system, we have this concept that you probably all know of access types, and an access type effectively is an alert. And an alert can do a vast variety of things in terms of engaging with your staff or your members, or in terms of triggering an automated process within Scion. So what we're doing is we're overhauling the whole workflow process to make that easier, because what we identified is that as it stands today, there's well in excess of 300,000 different workflows that could be configured within the system. So these workflows can be things whereby if this task happens, then assign the next task to this group of people or this individual, or it could be if this task happens, send a text message to the member, or if this task happens, then automate the next process within Scion, which then in itself could trigger raise another alert to take the next action, which could be assigning a task or assigning an activity or updating a member. So basically, it's about changing that process to make it simpler, okay? The beauty of that is that if we make that process simpler, then the challenge then is handed back to you guys to say, well, actually, how can I avail of this? How can I make this easier? And the idea behind that is that the more effort that you put into designing and implementing those workflows within the system, then it becomes a proactive system. So effectively, when your staff access the system, they're primarily being driven from their task list, because it's being driven by the workflows that are defined within the system, therefore making the entire process easier to use. But sitting behind it is a full BI and metrics dashboard that enables you to then review and reflect on this and look at where each of those items are at any one point in time. The second element around Scion simplification is what I've kind of called actionable data. So for those that have used the selection maintenance process within Scion, this is about taking that tool and really simplifying it down a lot further in terms of allowing you guys to get easier, quicker access to that data, and then subsequently take action on that. So whether that be being able to send a text message to people whose loans are due completion, or to target a specific demographic in relation to a loan offer, or notify people specifically in relation to the availing of the new member fees option or something like that. The reason that I've kind of described it here as actionable data is that the significant advantage of doing this within Scion using this tool is that not only is there a full audit trail, but actually all of the correspondence that's produced by this system is then written into the correspondence history, which means that you have a full history trail and audit of the activities that have happened, and therefore you can kind of come back and reference those should you need to at a later date. Yeah, and equally, you can then retarget the same group of people again, and the same group of members again, or a subset of that members again, in terms of how this builds up in a kind of exponential way. So probably the last point I'm going to call out very specifically on the roadmap is just in relation to open banking. So I know we've probably talked about open banking a couple of times before, but what we've now done is, through the significant uptake of online lending, we are seeking to improve both the efficiency and member experience by enabling members that, if they're going to apply for a loan, the implementation of open banking will mean that we will no longer need to ask them to insert and update their income and expenditure. What the system will do is enable them to pick their bank. They will then log in using to their bank. So this is their third-party bank. Yeah. So effectively, just to step back, the process would be they would log in to CU Online Plus or CU Mobile and apply for a loan. Once they'd set out how much they want to borrow, then the system would say, do you want to connect your current account? If they say yes, they pick their bank. It then takes them to the login details of their bank. And once they're logged in, that's all they have to do. Behind the scenes, what we will do is we will then request from their bank their banking details. We can get their last 3 months statements. We can get their transactions all categorized from their current account, and from that we can then establish their income and expenditure, which will then be pushed in as part of that loan application. And this is win-win in that, from a member standpoint, they don't have to key all that stuff in and go and find all their bank statements and print them out and scan them and upload them. They basically just log into their bank. So from a convenience standpoint, that's significant. And from a credit union standpoint, it's significant as well, because it means that that's verified. It's actual data coming from the third-party bank. It's not being supplied off system by the member. So that would be the first part of open banking, but then quickly on the back of that, and it's kind of tied a little bit to some of the other activities around the rollout of current accounts and providing other types of member services that's linked a little bit to the fees conversation we've just had, is the ability to then provide open banking transaction categorization. So basically what this means is that what we will be offering is the ability to then do effectively spending analytics that can be then available to both you as a credit union for your membership, but also providing that back to the member, so that if they log in via the app, they'll be then able to see how those what their kind of spending patterns look like, in terms of where. How do we use those industry standard open banking transaction categorization to dictate previous behavior? Yeah, and then subsequently use predictive behavior in terms of, well, actually, if that continues and you're going to spend this amount of money on food, you're going to you're going to need to lodge some more funds before your next paycheck or something like that. So it's about how we can kind of use the open banking concepts from a technical standpoint to kind of drive a key set of activities that drive significant value for the member profile. So look, guys, I'm conscious I've only just called out 3 or 4 very specific things. There's an awful lot on that roadmap, some of which we've probably talked a little bit about before, but equally, as I say, when the slides go out and the link goes out, there'll be detail behind each of these that you can then drill down into should you need more information. So then, just in terms of providing a little bit of an update in terms of where we are today, so I've probably touched on a little bit of this. So in terms of the changes to the mortgages module and the configurable fees, development of those is largely complete, and will start to roll out. But effectively, what I'm trying to show here is that, look, what we don't do is go into 2021, and in January and have the team all come back and say, right, what we're going to do this year. This is about kind of building up for it as we move into the year. So these things are going to be available for you in January. But we're now in the planning phases for a number of things that we've already talked a little bit about. So the kiosk login and the CU Online login via mobile. Those are in the planning phases right now, as is sign simplification and see online messaging. Okay, so basically those are in planning, and what that effectively means is that as we plan out and define the requirements for those in the end of 2020, that means that we will be starting the development activity on those in January 21. So finally, then, in terms of what are the next steps, so basically what we've just touched on the previous slide is, well, what are we developing right now? What will we develop next? In terms of the other priority items, then I've called out 2 specific items here where we will be reaching out to you guys separately to gather effectively a small special interest group around these 2 specific items. So this is the documents that I talked about in terms of the document branding and profiling and workflow associated with those. And secondly, in terms of e-signature and card deposits. So effectively, this is so we understand the ask here, which is, look, can we streamline and capitalize on this significant uptick in member onboarding, and have we solved 80% of a problem, and therefore if we identify and include these 2 things, does that make a step change in terms of requesting that savings deposits in terms of 5, 10, 20 euros, whatever your specific policy may be, can be applied and collected from the member at the point that they onboard, making sure that we're doing that in a nice, safe, secure way. So part of the reason we want to have the special interest group on that one is about trying to understand, well, actually, at what point do we collect those monies? Because obviously someone can apply for membership, but they may be turned down for a variety of different reasons, may not be in the common bond, or their ID may not check out or something like that. So it's about, working through that workflow. So we'll be reaching out really soon to get those underway, so the groups and the identification of the people involved and the shape of that will happen in December, and we will then probably arrange the initial meetings either towards the end of December or probably early January in terms of engaging with you guys on that. So that's everything I wanted to run through. Appreciate, guys, that was probably an awful lot, reasonably quick. But as I say, the information that's held on the roadmap will be distributed. So I'll now hand over to yourself, Rebecca, and see if we have any specific questions that we want to cover off.
Thanks, Ian. Yes, Michael Byrne asks, will the new mortgages module allow for easy inclusion of mortgage conditions?
Yeah, so basically, what we're doing, Michael, is we treat mortgages as a loan, effectively, yeah, and therefore, as part of that, we are reviewing how conditions can be applied, like they can be applied on a loan, yeah. So that is maybe something we need to pick up at a more granular level, but yeah, certainly there is the concept of applying different types of conditions to mortgage lending, yeah, but in the same concept as it does for personal lending for loans. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Brendan Ryan. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit Brendan Ryan is asking, will an improved online balance refresh be included in the C Online Plus enhancements?
Yeah, so basically, yes, we are changing that, Brendan. So basically, at the moment, the way it works is that we hold a balance in our data center for, and that's what's displayed online. Now that does get refreshed every time a transaction happens, either online or in branch. But we have a technical solution in place now that will be implemented in early January, whereby the actual balance that's displayed to the member is always read directly from Sign. So effectively, it reads the real-time balance. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Aidan Healy asks, will open banking allow external apps to consume our member data?
So this is something, Aidan, that we will be looking at, right? So that, it's actually subtly different, right? So to do that, we collectively would need to seek what's called an AISP license. Okay, so basically, what that would mean is that you would need, and we would need a license to say that we can provision the data in that way. Okay, we are looking, as we build out our API stack, we are looking at because there are industry standards for how we can provide that data to third parties, and therefore, as we do that, we're looking at it from a sort of industry standard open banking standpoint. Okay, but this is something. I mean, it's a great question, Aidan, and I think it's something that I'd be keen to explore as a group as to whether there's an appetite to do that. But I mean, it certainly is a possibility. But basically, what it would mean is having an AISP license, and then basically we would stand up a set of APIs that would allow a third party to basically consume data in the same way that I just described a few moments ago that we would consume from them.
Thanks, Ian. I actually have a question from a customer who couldn't make it. So this might tie in just when we're talking about open banking. Yeah. They just asked me to ask you, are we going to have a partner for open banking?
Yes, yeah. So in the same vein that I was just talking to Aidan about having an AISP license, we will seek a partner. I'm already talking to 2 or 3 different partners currently about the right way to do that, because obviously different partners are engaged and connected with different banks. Yeah, but basically, yeah, we will engage with a partner. And effectively, what that means is we will reach out to the partner. They will then provide the connectivity to the bank, and then provide us back with the data that I described a few moments ago.
Thanks, Ian. Does anyone else have any questions? You can pop into the chat or unmute your mic. Just in the meantime, Ian, there was another question from that customer. We had talked about push notifications before, and they were just asking a bit more clarity. Like, could you use the push notifications to send marketing messages or other informative messages to members as well? Absolutely,
yeah. So that's a great question, actually, because we probably didn't talk a lot about that because it was really more of a 2020 deliverable. But effectively, yes, as we roll out push notifications into our mobile app, what we've done is within Scion, we've created push notification as an alert type. Okay, and effectively what that means is that where previously you could create an alert of an SMS or an email, you can now create an alert as a push notification. Yeah, and from that standpoint, that means that what you can then do is engage with all of the members who have the mobile app will get a pop-up notification that provides them with information. Because basically there's 2 different types of push notification. There's informational ones that says, you could send your happy birthday messages that I know a lot of you guys do. So send out a happy birthday message. So that could go as a push notification. So that's obviously just information. Or there's an authorization type message like the ones we talked about in relation to the kiosk or see online mobile, or in fact for debit card e-commerce approvals. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. No one's put any questions in, so I think everyone has asked their questions, but as always, you can contact your customer experience manager if you have any questions over the next couple of days. And I'll just thank you all for attending, and thanks, Ian, for talking us through that. Everyone will get an email today with the link to the recording and the live link to the roadmap as well.
Brilliant. Listen, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate everyone for joining. All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye.